It feels like every day there's some new breakthrough in AI, right? I mean, it's changing absolutely everything.
It really is. And today, we're focusing on the people who are actually at the forefront of this change, the people who are building the future of AI.
Exactly. We're going deep on AI in 2025 and beyond, but specifically through the lens of startups.
Yeah, and the cool thing is we're not just speculating here. We're tapping into the minds of the folks who are really shaping this field.
That's right. We're talking about VPs at Google who are literally building the infrastructure, founders and CEOs of these super innovative AI companies.
The venture capitalists placing their big bets on what's next, and of course, the professors who are guiding the next generation of AI talent.
And all of this is distilled from Google Cloud's latest report, Future of AI, Perspectives for Startups 2025.
That's right. So for anyone listening who's trying to make sense of this crazy, fast-moving world of AI, well, this deep dive is for you.
Yeah, our mission here is to give you that shortcut. We're pulling out the most important predictions, the advice that you absolutely need to hear.
And the trends that are really going to define the AI landscape.
Right.
So you can quickly get up to speed on what's coming and where the opportunities are.
So let's dive right in. You know, one of the first things that jumped out at me from this report was just the sheer power that AI is going to demand.
Oh, absolutely.
Amin Vadat, he's over at Google Cloud. He talks about this crazy need for synchronization and just massive compute requirements that are going to push infrastructure to a whole other level.
Right.
So for someone who's actually trying to build a business around AI, what does this actually mean for them?
Well, think of it this way. As AI gets more and more sophisticated, it needs more data to process.
Right.
And it needs to do it faster and faster.
Yeah.
So Vadat's point about this tight synchronization,
Yeah.
it's not just about having a lot of computers.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that they all work together like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
You know? And they need to be insanely fast.
Yeah.
So for startups, this can be a bit of a challenge, right? Like building and maintaining this kind of infrastructure.
Mhm.
It's really expensive and complex. It's just not realistic for most.
Makes sense.
But it does create some really interesting opportunities for companies that are building, specialized hardware or the software that makes these systems run smoothly. I mean, that's where things get interesting.
Right.
It also means that partnerships and really smart use of cloud infrastructure are going to be more important than ever before.
It's almost like it's less about needing your own supercomputer and more about knowing how to tap into the power that's already out there.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, another prediction that really caught my eye was this idea of multimodal AI, where you're combining voice, vision, and natural language all together. Amin Vadat and Apoorv Agrawal, he's from Altimeter Capital, they both see this creating a much smoother, more seamless way of interacting with tech, potentially even making traditional devices less necessary.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So how do you think this shift is going to impact the kinds of applications and user experiences that we see emerging?
I think it's all about making technology feel less like a tool and more like an extension of ourselves.
Right.
Agrawal talks about a future where you can just talk to your devices, show them things, just tell them what you need.
Right.
And the AI, it just gets it,
Yeah, and it's
It just works, yeah.
Yeah. And for startups, this is massive. Think about all the new possibilities for interfaces and applications that are intuitive, easy to use.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, imagine augmented reality that sees what you're seeing and responds to your voice.
That would be wild.
Or customer service that seamlessly moves between voice and text depending on what you need. I mean, the key here is to focus on how these different senses can work together to solve real problems in a way that we just couldn't do before with, just text or just voice.
Yeah, almost like technology is learning to speak our language, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Now, on the flip side of all this AI hype, you have Arvind Jain. He's the founder and CEO of Glean. And he makes a really interesting point. He's saying that AI is going to augment human capabilities, not replace them.
Oh, interesting.
And he even cautions against this idea of AI-based employees, which I thought was a really interesting phrase.
Yeah.
So what's the nuance that he's trying to highlight here?
Well, I think he's bringing us back down to earth a little bit, right?
Yeah.
He's saying that while AI can definitely automate a lot of tasks and be incredibly helpful, it's not about to replace human creativity, ingenuity.
Okay.
Our ability to think critically and understand complex situations. Those things are still irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And for founders, this is super important. Instead of trying to build AI that just replaces people altogether, focus on building tools that help people do their jobs even better.
Right.
Make them more productive, more efficient.
Right. Empowering people with AI, not just replacing them. I like that. Okay, so Crystal Huang, a general partner at GV, she brings up this idea of micro booms and busts in AI, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
She's saying that as AI tools become more readily available, we're going to see these bursts of growth followed by potential declines.
Right.
But she also points out that building the core foundation models, that's going to remain a major challenge.
Right.
So for startups trying to, build lasting businesses in this environment, what are the implications of these cycles?
Well, I think it highlights how the competition is going to play out. As it gets easier to build AI applications, we're going to see a ton of new products hit the market.
Right, just an explosion.
Yeah, exactly. These micro booms will be these moments of excitement and innovation, but then the busts could come when these applications don't really deliver,
Yeah, when they don't live up to the hype.
or when the competition gets too fierce, or even when the underlying technology changes so fast that the applications become obsolete.
So it's almost like riding a wave, and you've got to be ready for when that wave crashes?
That's a great analogy. And for startups, this means you've got to have a real edge, something that makes you different, something that's hard to copy.
Right, a unique advantage.
Yeah, a moat. That
Mm.
could be unique data, strong network effects, a really deep integration into existing workflows, or just really, really deep expertise in a niche area.
Yeah, I get it. You can't just build something with AI. You've got to build something special with AI.
Exactly.
Okay, so Chamath Palihapitiya, he's always got a bold prediction, right?
Oh, it definitely.
He's saying the future of software is all about doing more with less, and he credits AI automation for that. He's even saying that it could potentially double the average profit margin of the S&P 500.
Wow.
That's a huge claim. So what's the core of his argument there?
Well, he's basically saying that AI is going to revolutionize how businesses work.
Right.
It's going to automate so much of what we do today and optimize processes in real time.
Got it.
We'll be able to create these hyper-customized software solutions that are perfectly tailored to a business's needs.
Wow.
Almost like having your own internal business operating system.
Okay, so AI is basically the ultimate efficiency machine, according to him.
Exactly. So for startups, this could mean a big shift in focus
Right.
toward building tools and platforms that make businesses way more productive. And his advice about building software factories, basically super flexible solutions that can adapt instead of these one-off products, that really aligns with his vision of widespread automation.
I see. So building the tools that allow for that mass customization.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating. Now, David Friedberg, who's the CEO of Ohalo Genetics, he also sees huge changes coming, especially in media, SaaS, and biology. And he highlights genome language models as a game changer.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
So what is it about AI applied to these fields that's so transformative?
I think his point about biology becoming like software, that's really powerful.
Right.
He's saying that with AI analyzing all this genomic data, we could basically program biological systems to do what we want, like create crops that are resistant to disease or develop new medicines.
Right.
And in media and SaaS, he sees AI creating these hyper-personalized experiences.
Yeah.
Which is what everybody's talking about these days.
Right. So for startups, it sounds like the key is to find those specific areas where AI can really unlock something totally new.
Right, or solve a problem that's been around forever, but in a completely different way.
Exactly.
But, and he makes this point really well, just slapping an LLM onto a problem isn't enough.
Right.
You've got to build a real engine of value creation.
Yeah.
And that often means having your own unique data, deep expertise, real insights.
It's about more than just the technology. It's about the application.
Yeah, spot on.
All right. Now, Dow Kiela, the CEO of Contextual AI, he talks about this convergence of long context and ARGA, which is retrieval augmented generation.
Oh yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful.
It is. He believes that AI models are going to get really good at choosing when to use each approach to make sure their answers are accurate and efficient. For someone who's not super technical, can you break down why this convergence is a big deal?
Sure. So think of it like this. Large language models, they're incredibly knowledgeable, right?
Right.
But they only know what they were trained on. And that data can be outdated.
Okay.
Now, RAG comes in. It basically allows these models to access and use external information, which is up to date, when answering questions or writing text. It's like giving them access to the internet.
Got it.
So they're much more accurate, more reliable.
I see.
Now, long context, that refers to the model's ability to understand really long pieces of text, not just short snippets.
Okay.
So when you put these two things together, AI systems are going to get much better at understanding complex information
Right.
and providing these super accurate and relevant responses. They're basically going to be able to decide, do I use what I already know, or do I need to go find some fresh information?
So they're getting better at knowing what they don't know and then going to find that information.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. Okay, Elad Gil, who's CEO of Gil Capital, he has an interesting take. He says that AI is actually massively underhyped.
Really?
Yeah, which kind of surprised me. He's saying we're still just at the very beginning of this huge transformative wave. What's making him so optimistic?
Well, Gil's argument is that we're only just starting to see what AI can really do, what he calls a unit of cognition.
Okay.
He's saying that even though, generative AI has been getting all the headlines, traditional machine learning is making huge strides too,
Right.
in areas like self-driving cars, for example. He sees a ton of potential in creating specialized AI models beyond just language.
Yeah.
And in using AI to make the stuff we already use, like software and consumer products, way more efficient and cheaper to produce.
Interesting.
His point is the impact of AI in the long run is going to be much bigger than we can even imagine right now.
Yeah, it feels like we're constantly being surprised by what AI can do. Okay, now James Trollmans, who's the managing director of Web3 at Google Cloud, he introduces this really intriguing idea.
Okay, I'm listening.
He's saying that people might actually trust their Web3-enabled AI agent more than anyone else,
Oh, well.
even to the point of sharing really personal information with it.
That's interesting.
So what's behind this idea of such a high level of trust?
Well, Tromans is exploring how Web3 tech can actually address some of the trust and security concerns that people have about AI.
Yeah.
The idea is that by using blockchain, you can create this secure way to store data, make transactions transparent, and verify identities.
Right.
And this could lead to a much stronger bond of trust between people and their AI agents. So imagine an AI that manages your finances, makes investments,
Yeah.
and handles really sensitive tasks. But it's all happening on this decentralized, completely auditable platform.
Yeah.
It's still early days, of course, but combining AI and Web3 like this could lead to completely new ways of interacting digitally.
Yeah, where trust is built in from the ground up.
Exactly.
Very cool. Now, Jennifer Lai, a general partner at A16s, she has a bit of a different take on AI agents.
Okay.
She's saying it's going to take longer than people think for them to really become mainstream.
Makes sense.
And she points to the need for better reasoning capabilities in these models and better solutions to infrastructure and integration problems.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What are the main bottlenecks that she's seeing?
Well, she's highlighting that while these large language models have gotten really good really fast,
Right.
building truly autonomous AI agents that can handle complex stuff in the real world, it's not just about the model. It's
Right.
more than that.
Yeah.
We need them to be able to reason effectively, to understand and respond to those complicated human instructions, and to work seamlessly with all the systems we already have in place. And the infrastructure to support all of this at scale, that needs a lot more work.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just having a smart AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So her point is, making these AI agents practical and widely used, it's going to be tougher and take longer than some people might expect.
It's not just about the smarts. It's about all the real-world stuff around it.
Right.
Now, Gia Lee, who is the co-founder, president, and chief AI officer at LiveX AI, she's got a bit more of an optimistic view.
Okay.
She sees these AI agents blending into our lives really smoothly, with more natural, human-like interactions. What's driving her more positive outlook?
Well, she's really focused on the rapid advancements, not just in how these models are built, but also in the data they're trained on.
Okay, right.
She thinks that as we feed these models with richer and more diverse data, they're going to get way better at understanding us.
Right.
Not just our words, but our tone, our intent, even our emotions. And this will lead to those natural, intuitive interactions that we want.
Yeah.
But, she also acknowledges that there are still big challenges around trust, security, accuracy, and making sure these interactions happen instantly without lag.
Right. It's not quite there yet, but the potential is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Jerry Chen, who's a partner at Greylock, he brings up a really important point about business models, which we've kind of touched on.
Yeah.
He says there's a lot of uncertainty around how to actually make money from AI, and that it's going to take a while for investors to really wrap their heads around it.
Yep.
So why is it so tough to figure out how to build a profitable AI business right now?
Well, Chen is saying that the traditional models that we use for software, like per-seat subscriptions, they might not be the best fit for a lot of AI applications.
Puts you to a whole new world.
Yeah, we're seeing people experimenting with usage-based pricing, value-based pricing, tying it to the outcomes.
Yeah.
And there are probably models that haven't even been invented yet.
Right.
So for investors, this uncertainty makes it hard to assess, how viable and scalable these businesses are.
It's a bit of a Wild West.
Yeah, for sure. It'll take time, and we need to see more examples of successful AI businesses to figure out what really works.
All right, we need those success stories.
He also thinks that AI applications that can directly impact a company's expenses, rather than just fitting into a software budget, those could be really disruptive.
Yeah, the ones that can actually change the bottom line.
Right.
Okay, Harrison Chase, the CEO and co-founder of LangChain, he talks about these ambient agents that kind of work in the background.
Interesting.
They're constantly monitoring things, but only alert you when something important comes up.
So how is that different from the AI assistants that we've been discussing?
Well, it's less about actively asking the AI for something and more about it just working for you in the background.
I see.
It's like a silent guardian that's always on the lookout and only steps in when you need it.
Okay.
So, it could be monitoring your calendar, travel plans, the news, and then it'll alert you if there's a conflict or a problem.
Right. That's very cool.
Yeah, but building this kind of system, it's not just about the AI.
You need really robust infrastructure for all that monitoring, reliable alerts, and it needs to be really smart about what it brings to your attention.
Right. You don't want to be overwhelmed with notifications.
Exactly. It needs to understand your needs and preferences really well.
It's a much more subtle way for AI to integrate into our lives.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Now, Dylan Fox, who's the founder and CEO of Assembly AI, he's got a prediction that's a little bit more cautious.
Okay.
He's saying that widespread adoption of AI in businesses is going to be slower than expected.
Yeah.
And he attributes that to these kind of hidden last-mile issues that come up.
Yeah, I can see that.
What kind of challenges is he referring to?
Well, he's talking about the practical stuff that companies run into when they're trying to actually use AI in their work.
Right, so getting it out of the lab and into the real world.
Yeah. These last mile problems can be things like connecting AI models to the company's data sources, making sure the data is secure, customizing the AI for their specific industry.
Right, so many moving parts.
Yeah. And then there are all the weird edge cases and errors that pop up in the real world.
Got it.
He also mentions that we need better ways to measure how well AI is performing for businesses.
Right, beyond those general benchmarks.
Exactly. So overcoming all these practical hurdles is going to be crucial for companies to really embrace AI. And that's where a lot of projects get stuck.
It sounds like it's not just about having the cool AI, it's about all the boring but essential work of making it fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Ido Liberty, he's the founder and CEO of Pinecone, and he makes a really interesting distinction. He says that while the fastest return on investment in AI is likely to come from agents, the biggest opportunity is actually in enterprise search.
Okay, interesting.
He's pointing to all this unstructured data that companies have just sitting there. So why is he so bullish on this area?
Well, he's basically saying that companies are sitting on this gold mine of information.
Right.
Documents, emails, customer support logs, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a mess. It's
Yeah.
really hard to search through all that effectively using traditional tools.
Right.
But AI-powered search, using things like semantic understanding, that can unlock the value hidden in all that data.
I see.
This means better decisions, improved efficiency, and finding insights that were totally buried before.
Right.
So this need for accurate, fast search that can make sense of all this unstructured data, I mean, that's a massive market.
It's like turning all that noise into signal.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, Mathieu Roof, the co-founder and CEO of Photoroom, he's got a prediction that I found kind of fascinating and a little bit creepy, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
He's saying that AI is going to get better at understanding and adapting to our emotions,
Okay.
which will lead to, content and experiences that are tailored to how we're feeling.
Interesting.
So how might this change the way we interact with technology?
Well, think about it. Movies that change their storyline based on your reactions.
That's wild.
Advertising that knows how you're feeling and tries to appeal to that.
Yeah, okay, a little creepy.
It could be huge for entertainment, marketing, even mental health support.
Yeah. Right.
But, like you said, it does raise some ethical questions like data privacy and the potential for manipulation. I mean, it's a powerful tool that needs to be used responsibly.
Yeah. A lot of potential for good and maybe some potential for not so good.
Right.
All right. Now, Mayada Gunema, who's the CTO and co-founder of Thread AI, she predicts that a lot of the AI tools and models that we're seeing now are going to disappear
Okay. Why is that?
if they don't deliver a return on investment or fundamentally change how developers work.
Oh, interesting.
So, what's her take on the sustainability of the current AI landscape?
Well, she's basically saying that AI needs to prove its worth.
Mm.
It needs to show real value and be something that people can actually use in their work.
Yeah, it can't just be hype.
Exactly. She thinks a lot of these AI solutions are just point solutions.
Uh-huh.
They don't address the core needs of a business or work well with the systems that are already in place.
Yeah.
So for AI to really stick around, it needs to either save companies money or give developers tools that totally change how they build software.
It's got to earn its keep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're probably going to see a lot of consolidation where the best AI solutions rise to the top and the rest fade away.
It's survival of the fittest.
Right.
Now, Raviraj Jain, who's a partner at Lightspeed, he sees some big changes coming in foundation models, especially for robotics.
Interesting.
What kind of breakthroughs is he anticipating?
Well, he thinks that while there's been a lot of focus on language models,
Right.
we're going to see major advancements in models that can understand and interact with the physical world.
So AI that can actually move things and manipulate objects.
Exactly. This could lead to robots that could do much more complex tasks,
Wow.
especially in environments that aren't neatly structured and predictable. And it could also have a huge impact in areas like material science and manufacturing.
So AI that's less about talking and more about doing.
Yeah, and that's a huge shift.
It is. Okay, so Salim Teja, who's a partner at Radical Ventures, he predicts that the focus is going to shift away from just building bigger models and more towards actually putting AI to work in different industries.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying that.
What's the thinking behind that shift?
Well, Teja's argument is that the sheer size and power of these models isn't the bottleneck anymore.
Okay.
The real challenge now is figuring out how to use these models to solve real-world problems.
Right, applying them.
Exactly. And that requires a deep understanding of different industries, access to the right data, and the ability to actually integrate AI into existing workflows.
So less about the tech itself and more about the implementation.
Exactly. It's about getting results.
Yeah. Now, Yoav Shoam, he's a professor emeritus at Stanford and co-founder of AI 21 Labs. He talks about the end of the prompt and pray era.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one. He's saying that for businesses that need reliable results, just relying on prompts isn't going to cut it anymore.
Makes sense.
So why are simple prompts becoming insufficient for those applications?
Well, Schoen points out that while prompts can be really useful for certain tasks,
Yeah.
when you need consistent, reliable results for a business, just throwing a prompt at a language model and hoping for the best, it's not going to work.
Right.
These models, they're based on probability, so
Yeah.
they can sometimes be inconsistent or just plain wrong.
Got it.
The future is about building more sophisticated AI systems that combine different models, specialized tools, and good old-fashioned code.
Right. So it's about orchestrating all of these different pieces.
Exactly.
Right.
That's how we're going to get the accuracy, control, and reliability that businesses need.
So we need systems, not just models.
Right.
Okay, lastly, Jill Greenberg Chase, who's an investment partner at Capital G, she's got an interesting prediction.
Okay, what is it?
She thinks that the core capabilities of these foundation models might not actually change all that much for the next year and a half.
Interesting.
And that this creates a really interesting opportunity for companies that are building specialized AI solutions with a clear return on investment.
I see. So there's going to be a focus on specialization.
Exactly. She also points out that the most valuable data for AI is often tied to specific use cases, which could give new companies an edge.
Makes sense.
So what does she see as the opportunity for startups in this kind of environment?
Well, if those foundation models do kind of plateau for a while, the real innovation is going to be in building those tailored AI applications that solve specific problems in different industries.
Right. Finding those niches.
Yeah, and this could be a great time for startups with deep expertise in their field and access to unique data.
Right. They can really outmaneuver the bigger players.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she stresses the importance of having a clear path to profitability and making sure there's a real market for your product.
The fundamentals still matter.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've heard a lot about the future of AI, the challenges, the opportunities. Now let's talk about the advice that these experts are giving to founders.
Sounds good.
Arvin Jain from Glean, he really emphasizes that founders should be thinking about how AI can drive revenue and innovation, not just about cutting costs.
Yeah.
What's the mindset shift he's advocating for?
Well, he wants founders to think big about what AI can do. It's not just about automating what we already do.
Right.
It's about creating entirely new products and services that were impossible before.
Right, using AI to open up new possibilities.
Exactly. And that requires a growth mindset, a focus on creating value for customers and finding new ways to make money, not just cutting expenses.
Yeah, it's a much more exciting way to think about AI.
For sure.
Okay, so Apoorv Agarwal, he suggests that founders should really think about their pricing models and consider things like usage-based or value-based models.
Oh, yeah, that's a really important point.
Why is that so crucial for AI products?
Well, traditional pricing models, like charging per user, they might not work for a lot of AI products.
Right.
Because the value of AI is often tied to how much you use it or the results you get.
I see.
Usage-based pricing aligns the cost with how much you actually use.
Right.
And value-based pricing, well, that ties the cost to the actual benefits you're getting.
So it's about finding a model that makes sense for what AI is actually delivering.
Exactly. And don't forget, the cost of computation is going down.
Right.
So ideas that might have been too expensive before, they could be viable now.
Okay, interesting. And Amin Vadat, he echoes that point about the cost of computation going down.
Yeah.
He's saying that projects that were out of reach before might be possible now. What kind of projects is he talking about?
Well, think about things that require a ton of computing power, like those complex simulations, really large-scale data analysis,
Yeah.
training these sophisticated AI models.
Right.
These are things that would have been incredibly expensive a few years ago.
Right, because of the cloud computing costs.
Exactly. But now those costs are coming down.
So it's opening up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. So if you've got an idea that needs a lot of horsepower, it might be worth revisiting now.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Now, Crystal Huang, she talks about the importance of, documenting, codifying, and measuring processes.
The fundamentals.
Yeah. Why is this so important, especially in a field that's moving as fast as AI?
Well, it's about building a solid foundation for your business, even when everything around you is changing rapidly.
Yeah, I get that.
Documenting processes ensures that knowledge isn't just stuck in people's heads.
Right.
Codifying best practices means you get more consistent results.
Uh-huh.
And measuring everything lets you constantly improve. This is especially important in AI because the tech is evolving so quickly.
Yeah, you've got to be able to adapt.
Right. So having a strong operational framework allows you to do that more effectively.
Solid advice. Now, Chamath Palihapitiya, he's got a really interesting piece of advice. He says founders should focus on building point features, not point products.
Okay, that's interesting. What does he mean by that?
So his thinking is that in the current AI landscape, where you've got these big tech companies with tons of resources,
Right.
startups are better off focusing on becoming the best at one specific thing, building these really great features that can integrate into other platforms or workflows.
I see. So rather than trying to build a whole product, you become the best at one specific piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. You find a need and you fill it better than anyone else.
It's like specializing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Doakila, Dylan Fox, and Ito Liberty, they all emphasize the need to move fast.
Yeah, speed is key in AI.
Why is that so critical in this space right now?
Well, because the rate of innovation in AI is just so rapid.
Yeah.
The window of opportunity for any given idea can be really short.
You snooze, you lose.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Getting your product out there quickly allows you to get feedback, iterate, and establish yourself before someone else comes along or the technology.